Okay, so here we are. We have done the GUIs. We can move back and forth between the menus. Now we need to get the register up and running where we can take in some. We need to do this thing, right? We need to make an array list of students called register. We need to be able to create a student based on those text fields and then add that to the array list. And then finally clear ID, name and ID fields. I think I'll do this validation thing maybe as a separate point, but let's just do this one to begin with. So let's just kind of handle making the array list, doing the create students based on text fields, all that stuff for right now. So first thing, I just need to have an array list. So I'm going to make an array list of student, and it's going to be, yeah, it's called register. And then it's going to be new. I'm just going to set up this array list right here. And now, oh, hey, look, give me an error. Doesn't matter. I can import that one. Great. Now, okay, so if we're going to make a new student, we need to be able to access. We need to get access to these. Where are we at in here? Remember, we have these methods here, and then we have these names associated with the different text fields. So we need to, if we're going to make a new student based on those text fields, we need to get access to those text fields. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say public text field. And it's going to be, oh, and then we need to make sure the name is right. Let's say name text. And then, oh, text field. Oh, wait, look, it's not there. We need to import it. Great, got it. And then we're also going to make a text field. There's this one for the ID, so we'll call it add ID. Public text field, add ID. And then let's see here. That should be good. So I want to make a student. I'll make it just called temp, and it's going to just be a new student. And this is where it's nice to have. We could do this in a lot of different ways. I think this is good. We're going to make this kind of blank student. It's not going to have a name, not going to have an ID, and then we can update those values later from the text field. There's a lot of different ways you could do this. You could like make a string. You could just build everything all at once. It's good to kind of break this up a little bit to kind of show your, especially for your IA, to kind of explain, show that you're like step by step what's happening. So putting it all, we could put this entirely in one line, but kind of breaking it up to make it more readable is a valuable thing to have. It won't really affect the speed or anything. So, so you could make a student and then add the stuff, the name and the ID to the student. You could capture the name and the ID in two variables and then add those to the student. Both would be fine, but it's just a way to really kind of make our text more readable. Excuse me. So, okay. And I'm not going to do this all at once. The first thing that I want to do is just to make sure that this is printing out a student. So this should be like a temporary student. It should. So when I hit add student, we should see this temporary kind of empty student get made. All right, fingers crossed this works. Let's go into, we're going to register students. And you don't have to worry about these stupid little warning errors about load fxml. If you see this in yours, don't worry about it at all. So I can type something in here. And then, but shouldn't really matter, right? Because all we're doing is when we use the add student method, anywhere we use it, we should make a new student and then immediately print them. So we can say, so it doesn't really matter what I put in here. I can add student. Hey, good. Look, we have this empty student, right? No name, no ID, or ID defaulted to 0. We can do it using the add student. Also, remember, we are calling this method, this add student, when we hit enter in the name, it's working there. Or if we're doing enter in the ID, it's going to call the add student, so it should run that based on running this action anywhere. So that's kind of cool. Like we don't have to code different methods. We can just call the same method all from these different buttons. I thought that would work, but nice to kind of check in here. Let's see. This is this kind of setup. I think we need to set these up as public because, let me just try this out here. What I want to do is, again, I'm showing you my thought process for how am I going to step-by-step build up to this, because it's something I'm not super comfortable with. So let me just try and, instead of actually making the student fully, I just want to print out, go into the text field, and let's get the text from there, and we're going to print that out, just to see if we can get that to work. Because we're trying to, kind of weird thing is we're giving a name here, but it's not like text field, name text is equal to new text field. We are just declaring the variable here. The initialization, all like that kind of setting up, doing the equals new thing, that's happening actually in the fxml. So we need to use public to kind of show that this is a variable we are seeing in multiple classes. And I think this should work. So let's try this out. We'll try this out. All right, moment of truth. Let's go to register students. We're going to put in a name. We're just going to put in Casey. Let's do add name. Hey, look, it's printing us out down there. Awesome. Let's see. Cool. So that's actually working. So we are getting the text. This setup is working here using the public text field name text. We can access that, get the text from it. So step one, if we can print it, then we can also just add it to our student. Yeah, and again, if I enter anywhere, hey, that's really cool. It's not working. That's working. Let me try. So okay, so let's go through and build our student. Oh, one thing I did try and do is I tried to, just to test out kind of while I paused the video, I tried to make this private to see what would happen instead of public, because I'm pretty sure I knew how it was going to work. But when I tried to run that with this private text field, I got this whole big giant error. And it's basically saying that there's just like a lack of connection between this text field here and the text field that's being called within the fxml. Because this is private, so it's like there's no communication back and forth between classes. If we mark it as private, it only exists within this class, so it's like a lack of, just a lack of being able to communicate with the fxml file. So I do need to make this public. I just want to double check that just in case. So let's see here. Okay, so yeah, we have this blank student. We just need to go through and we want to update this student based on the text fields. And I am going to assume that they've done everything correctly because I could go through and do some data validation, but I think I'm going to do that for a separate video if I haven't said that already. Because that might just take a good bit of time and maybe not worth it to spend it right now doing that. But it definitely is worthwhile to do. But let's take a look here. Name temp. So we're going to do temp dot, and we're going to set. Right, we made these things before, and so let's do name text dot get text. I could even really do these in separate, like make a name variable here. Make a string name and then get this here and then set the name using that. I'm just gonna do it like this though. So let's see, we're gonna set the name and then we're gonna do temp.setID. And we wanna do, I'm gonna do integer.parse int, and I'm gonna pass in the addID.getText. Okay. And again, this is only gonna work, we are trusting that the person has done these things correctly and actually passed in an integer, which may or may not be the case, but we're gonna assume that they did. And then last thing I want to do is I'm just going to print this temp student. This is gonna be, So let's try and run this. All right, here we go. We have our register student. Fingers crossed. Every time it gives me a warning down there, I have a little bit of a heart attack, but it seems like it's okay. Do these hit enter? Yay! Look, we have a student ID, name Casey ID 1. Okay, so we have created a student. So everything we've done so far is working. Let's go back to our checklist and see kind of how we're working with that. We created the array list. We created a student based on the text fields. Next thing we need to do is add it to an array list. And then also I want to clear these ID and name fields later. So let's exit out of this. And yeah, so it's really not too far off. Let me go back to my code. All I need to do here, like I like doing the step-by-step kind of implementation. But what I need to do is go back to here. Instead of printing it, I'm just going to go to register.add, and we'll do this new temp student. Okay, and so that's going to add that to the students. Maybe we could do, I'll just do like system out. Let's print the whole register. That'll be the last kind of, I like to do these kind of micro steps along the way as we build this. That'll be my last micro step of, I'm going to show the array list every time I add a student. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go into register students. I'll say me, I'm going to be 1, add student, and look, it's going to add this. You see these kind of blocks around there where it's, you say maybe I want to change up this system out print, but say Bruce is number 2. Sorry, Sophia, you end up being 3. Don't tell her, she'd be very upset. Yeah, look, but it's adding all these different students in here and adding them to our array list and printing them out. So what that tells us is that this is adding data to the array list and it's keeping that data, because these kind of keep getting updated as I add names to it. So our code is working pretty well. As far as our checklists go, we have a lot of these things done. We need to clear the name and ID fields. So last thing, all that means is like after I enter my name and I store it, I want to just clear the text fields if everything works. I make it this far. I think I can say clear. Yeah, I'll just say clear, and let's do add ID clear. Let's run this. Let's see how we did. All right, let's try this again. We'll do students. Student. Oh yeah, look, and it's clearing the fields for us. Hey, there we go. Right, so it's clearing. That's kind of nice, just like a little, just a little bit of convenience, right, to have that clear out on its own. Let's see in here. Okay, so we've done all of these elements. That seems to be good. I think the last thing we'll do is maybe a separate video on this is to validate the data. Yeah, well, there's a few other things to do, but that would be the major one for us. Oh, yeah, I mean, I think like the last two things I really need to do, and this will be, maybe it'll be a video a little bit later on, but I want to do two things here, actually. One thing is I want to do this validate data. That's a big part. But also what I need to do is, it would be nice that like whenever I add data, as soon as like, maybe this would really be like a big item, okay, would be to like save this to a file, right? Like every time I make a new student, I want to update my array list, and then maybe I also want to update like an actual file, so that way, you know, the data is going to be persistent. It's going to be stored on my computer, and I can access it later. I could do that maybe in the save file. Maybe I could save file. I have to decide, do I want to do it every time I add a student, or maybe when I hit go back, it's going to save the students, because I want to have access to this across all of my code, and I don't want to lose it. So I think for access across, maybe I could make this, just kind of thinking off the top of my head, maybe I want to make this public so that others can view this. Because, right, if we make it public, that means it can be seen across all of the classes. I think I'm going to go in and test that in a little bit. So anyways, I have to think a little bit more about how to do that, make the array list kind of accessible elsewhere, be able to save it, be able to retrieve it. For now, I'm just going to leave it there. We've made it an array list. I'm going to do a quick video about how to do some data validation to make sure that we're getting the actual right data in here, and that'll be it.